So for my March Denver housing market update, it's coming back just like I expected it would. It feels a lot weirder to the agents that are out in the marketplace right now. It feels kind of anxious, unsettled, just, everybody wants to move, but nobody's doing anything. But things are moving and there's just not a lot of inventory, but there's also a lot of people just hanging back and sitting on the fence. So I'm going to make this a pretty quick one because my kids are watching Blaze while they're eating their snacks right now for the afternoon. And I'm going to show y'all the basic stats and make it a pretty quick update. But you can see that our median close price is up to $575. Essentially, the story of this whole video is we're back to April of last year when it comes to values. So, and we're not quite back up to like spring of 22. As you can see, we were up in the median price point for the Denver metro area was, and that includes detached and attached single family housing. So condo, townhome, single family, everything. The median in spring of 22 at the height of the market was 615. We're up to 575. We really had that major adjustment at the end of 2022. Then we had our typical 2023 seasonal market, just with not as much activity because of the rates. And we're getting our incremental increase year over year. So we're back to spring values of last spring, late last spring. It's early spring now. In my mind, February still counts as spring because that's kind of our February, March, April, May. That's what our spring housing market is, what we call it when we're in the industry. So essentially, we're kind of back to early spring of 2022 values too. So for the people that bought a house in, early 22, and then kind of before the rates went down and adjusted, we're not quite back to the peak of that market, but we're getting pretty close. We're catching up a little bit there, and we are kind of recovered from our fall seasonality of last fall back to early spring or back to late spring of last year. We're already ahead of the curve. So we'll have some annual appreciation for the year as long as the market holds out and increases as I would expect. So our average price point is up to $669. And that's for February closings of this year. So we're back to late spring, as I mentioned, $669 of last year. Not quite back up to the peak, but somewhere about February, March of 2022, kind of recovered. Our seasonality is recovered from, and the market adjustments from all those rate adjustments. So overall, there's definitely, it's this, I keep saying weird. It's kooky. Kooky is kind of my word for the market right now. And that's not normal. I would say looking back a little bit further, right? Because I always like a little bit broader picture. And I'm going to go back even further on the median close price. And actually months of supply is a really good way to visualize this. And so obviously in 2010, 2011, we had tons of supply, things weren't moving. And then you see our seasonality is pretty consistent. So when I talk about seasonality of our market, I say, hey, a lot of people list and buy, so both sell and buy in February, March, April, May, June, and then things slow the second half of the year. So Q3 and Q4 tends to be a little bit less activity. Things pick back up in January and they start showing in February, March, April, May as far as closings. So that's what I'm talking about. That's this wave down in the bottom. And I'm going to zoom this in just a little bit more. So you can see months of inventory is a good, or months of supply. What that is if no more homes were listed tomorrow, with the buyers that are out in the market right now, the demand in the market and the current inventory in the market, how many months would it take for those to come to zero, right? So for all of the buyers that are looking to buy all of the houses that are available for sale right now, assuming no changes in demand or supply. So what that is equaling out to is a month and a half. That's a pretty low supply, right? Pretty low inventory. And so our days in MLS is another good way to kind of get a feel for the market. When the agents are talking about how the market's feeling, how quick things are moving, these are the two big statistic indicators that convey that feeling, right? So you can see days in MLS was on the floor, practically not quite toilet, but pretty close. Because houses, as soon as they would come on, they would sell, right? For 2020, 2021, 2022. And then we had the rates go up in early, March, April, May of 2022, and things sat forever because nobody wanted to buy. Now that's relative, right? I mean, oh my gosh, our median days on market was 34 days at the worst of it for, end of 22, early 23. We went up to 35 here in the last couple months, but you can see the sharp decrease in the days on market. So, and the days in MLS is essentially how long the property is sitting or is active in the MLS, allowing showings before it gets under contract. So this does not include our pending time. So you can see we always drop pretty substantially from January to February. But last year it went from 34 to 25. Now we went from 35 to 22. It means a little bit more increase in demand relative to the available supply. You can see things really picked up in beginning of COVID, and then it was just nothing was available for any period of time until the rates went up. But that shows how quick things move and how quick things change and the seasonality of the market. And I know I'm kind of skipping around a lot here, but this conveys there's still not a lot available to buy. And I'm going to back this up a little bit more like I had it before. So I'm still comparing 23 and 24 as far as year 2023 and 2024 back to something like 2018, 2019, as far as how the market felt, right? The pre-COVID market. People were still aggressively buying. There was a major need for housing. The rates were cheaper, so people were buying less hesitant to buy, I would say, less anxious about buying. Just the normal level of quote unquote uncertainty given election years in 2020 and all kinds of stuff coming up, right? And then COVID happened and everything went just all over the place. I'm not going to say went to crap. It's all over the place. Literally depends on what situation you were in. And then now we're kind of getting back to that with a little bit more extreme swings in our seasonality. So regarding how quick these houses are selling and how things are moving and the current feeling of the market, right? So a lot of the buyers, rates were in the fives, high fives to low sixes a couple months ago in December. And people started getting excited. So the market picked up quicker. And I was talking that it was going to pick up in January and actually picked up a little bit in December, right? Well, then the Fed comes out and is like, well, we're not going to drop rates just yet. And then the mortgage market reacts and does what it does. And it kind of gets a little volatile for the level of uncertainty thanks to the Fed conversations. And so then when the rates go up a little bit, then the buyers back off, right? But we also had that happening at the same time as some inventory coming on. So you can see for new listings, this is a really volatile graph. You can see for new listings, we're getting more coming on. We actually had more come on in February of 24 than we did in February of 23. We only had about 32 or 3,300 new homes come on. Now we had 4,000. So it's some of those people that were sitting back like, I don't want to sell my house just yet because where am I going to go, right? I don't want to let go of my 3% mortgage to go to a 6. Well, now people have been sitting in that house for the year and they're like, okay, it's time. I thought I could deal with it. I dealt with it. I'm ready. I'm done. This is the new normal. I will live. I will adjust. I will accommodate. We will move forward. So we're having some more inventory come on. However, we're still having pending listings. You can see if we had 4,000 new listings come on, 3,400 listings went under contract. So things are picking up and there's just as much demand out there. And I will say for my buyers right now, we expect to compete on some stuff, not on everything, right? Because our days in MLS is still 22 days. That's 3 weeks. So, and our average is going to be a little bit different than that. I like going off the median for these things. Yeah, because you can see average is not relative to most of the properties in the market. So for my buyers, if it's a nice property, it's priced well and it shows well, it's probably going to go. It might not go in the first 3-4 days with the auction effect, so to speak, or the bidding wars. But what's happening a lot right now is what I call the delayed auction of everybody's like, oh, well, that's cool. Well, I'll go take a look at it. Well, let's see if it makes it through the first weekend. And if it sits around, maybe I can offer a little bit less. But then 2 or 3 people have that idea, and now they're competing on a house on week 2 or week 3 that has been on the market. And so maybe there's 2, 3, 4 offers, not 10, 15, 20 medieval bloodbath situation, as I was talking about through a lot of 2020 to 2022. So for my buyers, there's still competition out there. But a lot of the buyers are the people that are moving that don't have to move. And so therefore they're a little pickier. And it's just this level of kind of anxiety and volatility and unknowing of what's going to go on socially, economically, all these other things that's causing a lot of just general anxiousness about the market, right? And so the sellers that need to sell that are pricing and positioning well, it's selling because you have buyers out there that want to buy. For the sellers that are overshooting it, I've definitely run into a handful of that lately with my buyers and looking at places. It's like, this is great. It's overpriced by $25,000. Why is it overpriced? Oh, wait, it's because they bought it up here and now they need to sell for some life change, whatever, and they don't want to take a loss. okay, cool. The market prices have not quite come back to our peak pricing in spring of 2022. So just because you don't want to take a loss doesn't mean someone's going to pay it. And those properties are sitting on the market for 3, 4, 5 months. And so there's a lot of that as well, as sellers are, nobody's having to take a loss for a decade now because our appreciation has just been crazy, especially the last 5 to 6 years. And so a lot of owners and sellers have gotten spoiled. And that's why their expectations are a little unrealistic given the current market and the changes over the last 18 months. And a lot of the buyers don't really have to move. They want to move for just the right thing, and they don't want to bid and they don't want to fight for it because the market has been correcting for the last 18 months. And so it kind of is causing this level of just everybody wants to do something, but nobody's committed enough to doing it. But things are moving. You can see for the people that are committed, for the properties that are coming on, there's sellers that are selling and there's buyers that are buying, and the active inventory is still pretty low. Active inventory meaning you can walk up, and this is a snapshot in a period of time, but how many active listings were there for that month for a period of time. And so you can see it's not like there's tons of bidding room. Our average close to list price ratio is still almost 100%. And that's in February closing, so January contracts, which is usually one of the best times, December, January, one of the best times to pick up a deal and negotiate. So there wasn't a ton of room to negotiate then. There was a little bit. Now that's going to go away, and it's going to continue to go away. And like I mentioned in the last market update video, we'll probably go to 101, 102% here in the next month or so. So overall, it's kind of this apprehensive market feeling is what I'm getting from my clients. I do have a chunk of sellers, like a good amount of sellers coming up here for the spring market, trying to take advantage of that seasonality that I'm always talking about and listing the property right in here through this March, April, May timeframe. I do have buyers out there that are looking for specific things. Some buyers are looking for more general things. And so I'm getting a real good feel of both sides of the market at the moment. But overall transaction volume, there's just not a lot happening. So the agents were just like, it's just kind of weird. It's just an unusual situation, an unusual combination of circumstances and how people are feeling and what's affecting their decisions. So where this boils down to is for my buyers, I'm having those conversations about we're probably going to be in a competitive offer situation if the house is priced and promoted and positioned well as soon as it hits the market. There's a lot of properties that have kind of been sitting around for 2, 3, 5, 6 weeks that are lingering a little bit, and they're starting to go a lot quicker. So buyers that are thinking, oh, well, I'll just see if something else comes up, and if not, I'll go buy that one. Okay, well, that one might very well be gone by the time you come around to that choice. We're getting into that situation. We're also going into a market where it is going to continue to be more competitive for the next few months. Therefore, let's not let good opportunities pass us by. FOMO is going to cost you, is pretty much what that means. So having those conversations and just setting realistic expectations with my buyers of let's have a game plan. If this works out, great. If not, we're going to go do this. And you realize the risk that you're taking by waiting a little bit longer. You're going to get more choices. You're just going to have to compete more for those choices. So, but for my buyers that want something really, really, really specific, we're in prime inventory situation coming on for the next few months. So if you want something really specific, the next few months is when you're going to get your most choices for the year, most likely, especially being an election year in the fall. I'll talk about that for as far as for buyers that are not positioned to compete, because we're getting back into that where if you have down payment assistance or FHA or 3.5% down or even 5% down, 10% down, if you're not in a situation to compete as well and you want something that is in high demand, then maybe we need to position ourselves a little bit more for the later summer when we have some inventory left over and people aren't shopping as there's not as much competition, right? So June, July shopping, or Q3, Q4 in an election year is a wonderful time to go shop because nobody else wants to shop during an election year because everyone's like, oh my gosh, is the world going to end? I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, well, chances are, regardless of the next president, most likely you're still going to need a roof over your head. So probably going to, your rent bill's still going to be due, your mortgage is still going to be due. Let's make sure that space that you're living in still works for you and affects your day-to-day life, okay? For my sellers, we are coming into peak season. peak demand. That also means the most amount of competition and most inventory coming on. So most homes that you have to compete with. It is all about pricing and promotion and presentation. Okay, as I talk about in a lot of my videos, we need to present it well, we need to position it well, we need to price it appropriately, and I promote the crap out of my listings. So every listing that I do gets a floor plan, it gets a 3D tour, it gets professional photography. If the property warrants it, it's getting drone photography. I'm doing videos of the neighborhoods. It is my job to help as many people want to buy that property as possible, right? And promote that property and promote the features that people are really looking for. So not just the house itself, but I'm promoting the neighborhood. I'm promoting the schools if that's appropriate. I'm promoting the lifestyle. I'm promoting what draws buyers to that area, not just the property itself. So that is my role. And that is why I'm talking to my sellers about, and I'm really lining up all of those things for the next few months. So if you are looking to buy and you like to sit down and do a consult or ask some questions, I would love to help. Same if you're looking to sell, happy to line that up and make a game plan for you. The sooner the better, because then we can get ahead of it and make a game plan. I'm telling you, most of my sellers right now, I'm talking with 6 to 8 weeks out of actually putting their property on the market so we can have a game plan. One of the properties I've got a handyman doing in some work this week, and then we're going to have the carpets cleaned, then we're going to stage it, then we're going to do photos. So there's a timeline to launch it as well as possible, and the more time we have to do that, the better. So anyway, if you'd like to interview me to help you either buy or sell, I would love the opportunity to do so. I know I get a little analytical on these, but these are my down in the weeds videos. So I have a link down below for my Calendly, and you can go on there and pick a time right off my calendar that works for you. I don't like to do the back and forth phone tag because let's just make it easy for everybody, right? It's always hard enough to get anything done. So let's schedule a time to sit down and talk. I can hear my kids are getting a little restless. I think the Blaze episode is over. So thanks so much for the time. Talk to you soon, and y'all have a good one.